Scene script. Is dating today more complicated than it was for our grandparents? How has the digital age transformed the dating landscape? Once upon a time, not so long ago, dating was a simple affair. It was a localized marketplace where your options were limited to the pool of eligible singles in your immediate vicinity. You'd meet someone at school, at church, at a local gathering, or even through a family setup. Love then was about personal interaction, about shared experiences, and about getting to know each other on a profound level. But the advent of the internet and social media has completely transformed this landscape. Instead of a localized market, we now have what we can call a global sexual marketplace. The digital age has expanded the dating pool to include people from all corners of the world. It's like walking into a supermarket with aisles that extend beyond the horizon, each packed with potential partners. This shift has had significant implications for the average man and woman. For instance, the average woman, who used to receive attention from a handful of men in her local area, is now getting attention from an abundance of men globally. The sheer volume of options can be overwhelming and, in some cases, can even lead to a paradox of choice, where more options make it harder to make a decision. On the other hand, the average man now has to compete with a much larger pool of contenders. The competition has become fierce. In many ways, modern men have to work 5 times harder than their grandfathers did to date women who arguably have a much more complex set of expectations and standards thanks to the global exposure. So this global sexual marketplace has significantly impacted the dating game, but how exactly? Let's delve into a concept called Hoeflation. What is Hoeflation? And how does it affect modern dating, you might ask? Well, let's dive into this intriguing concept. Hoeflation is a term that describes how an average woman is now receiving attention from a multitude of men, thanks to the advent of the internet and the global sexual marketplace. It's a term that cleverly combines hoe, slang for a promiscuous woman, and inflation, a term used in economics to describe the decrease in purchasing power of money. In the context of dating, Hoeflation implies that the value or demand for an average woman has significantly increased. This isn't a judgment of worth, but rather an observation of the changing dynamics in the dating world. This shift is largely because the internet has made it easier for people to connect, leading to an increase in the number of potential suitors for women. Now, what does this mean for the average man? Well, it means he has to work 5 times harder than his grandfather did to date women. But the twist is that these women, in his perception, might be 20 times worse than the women of his grandfather's era. This is because the increase in attention women receive can lead to more selective dating habits, making it seem as if standards have risen. But it's not all doom and gloom for men. It's important to remember that while the dating landscape has changed, it doesn't mean that meaningful relationships are impossible to find. It simply means that the game has changed, and men need to adapt to these new rules. And for women, it's a mixed bag too. While the increase in attention can be flattering, it can also be overwhelming. It's a double-edged sword that can lead to both empowerment and exhaustion. Evidently, Hoeflation has altered the dynamics of modern dating. But what role does feminism play in all this? Well, that's a juicy topic we'll be diving into next, so stay tuned. Feminism and freedom of choice. How have they contributed to the current state of dating? As we delve deeper into the realm of dating dynamics, one cannot overlook the role feminism has played in shaping the landscape. Feminism, at its core, advocates for the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. It has empowered women to break free from societal norms and expectations, allowing them to explore their sexuality without the fear of judgment or stigma. This freedom of choice has given rise to a new phenomenon called Hoeflation. As women are encouraged to embrace their sexuality, they are no longer confined to the traditional localized dating marketplace. Instead, they have the entire globe at their fingertips, thanks to the advent of the internet and social media. The global sexual marketplace has expanded the dating pool exponentially, leading to an oversupply of potential partners. This has inadvertently contributed to the phenomenon of Hoeflation, where the perceived value of women in the dating marketplace has increased. Now, let's take a look at the implications of this. As women's perceived value increases, men find themselves needing to work harder to stand out in a crowded marketplace. The dating dynamics have shifted, with men feeling the need to bring more to the table than their grandfathers did. This isn't necessarily a negative thing. After all, the demand for equality and respect in relationships is a positive shift. However, it does present a new set of challenges for men navigating the dating scene. Women, on the other hand, are faced with a paradox of choice. With an abundance of potential partners, deciding who to date becomes an overwhelming task. This could lead to dissatisfaction and a constant search for something better. So, we see how feminism and Hoeflation have reshaped the dating scene. But what does this mean for the average man and woman? As we progress, we will explore the impact of these changes on men and women individually, shedding light on the modern dating dilemma. Men are feeling the pressure, but why is dating now more challenging for them? Let's delve into this conundrum. With the metamorphosis of the dating landscape, an average man is finding it increasingly difficult to navigate these waters. Picture this: a time when a man could court a woman in his local vicinity, build a relationship, and settle down. This was the norm for our grandfathers, where the dating marketplace was localized and competition was limited to the local community. The men of yesteryear only had to be better than the guy next door, and not the whole world. Fast forward to today, the advent of the internet and social media has globalized the dating scene. An average woman is now receiving attention from a plethora of men across the globe, thanks to online dating apps and platforms. This has inadvertently upped the ante for modern men. They now have to compete not just with the guy next door, but with men from different corners of the world, each bringing something different to the table. In essence, our modern man has to work 5 times harder than his grandfather did, but for a prize that he perceives as 20 times less valuable. It's a frustrating paradox. He's putting in more effort, showcasing more charm, and yet he's left feeling dissatisfied, often feeling like he's settling rather than choosing. Then, there's the influence of feminism. While it has empowered women, which is fantastic, it has also reshaped their expectations and definitions of empowerment. Some modern women see having multiple partners as a form of liberation, further complicating the dating dynamics. This constant competition, coupled with shifting expectations, has left men feeling the pressure. They're navigating a dating world that's vastly different from the one their grandfathers knew. It's a world where the rules are constantly changing, and keeping up can be a Herculean task. Clearly, men are facing new challenges in dating, but how are women affected by these changes? Let's explore that in the next segment. What about women? How has their dating experience been influenced by these changes? Well, it's quite a tale. While the global sexual marketplace and the concept of Hoeflation have certainly brought about a shift in dynamics, the impact on women has been equally profound, albeit in a different way. In contrast to the localized dating pool of their grandmother's era, modern women have access to a plethora of potential partners from around the world. The internet has transformed dating into a global phenomenon, broadening horizons and offering an array of choices. But with this abundance of options comes a new set of challenges. In the past, women often sought stability and commitment in relationships. But with the advent of the global sexual marketplace, the emphasis has shifted towards quantity over quality. There's an increased pressure to engage with multiple partners, often at the expense of meaningful connections. This shift is, in part, due to the societal narrative that equates sexual freedom with empowerment. But is it truly empowering if it's driven by societal pressure rather than personal choice? Moreover, the abundance of attention that women receive online has created a distorted perception of self-worth. It's easy to mistake online popularity for genuine value, leaving many women feeling dissatisfied in real-life relationships. This dissatisfaction often stems from unrealistic expectations set by the constant bombardment of attention and flattery online. The modern dating scene also puts women in a position where they constantly have to filter through an overwhelming number of potential suitors, a task that can be emotionally taxing. Not to mention the pressure to maintain an appealing online persona, which can lead to a constant state of performance anxiety. So while the dating landscape has indeed changed, it hasn't necessarily become easier. It's become more complex, more nuanced, and more challenging to navigate. As we can see, the dating game has significantly changed for both men and women. The question now is, How can we navigate this new dating landscape?